All right, so let's dive into Ender's Game.
Okay.
You've shared some excerpts with us, and I'm really fascinated to kind of dig into Ender's journey from, gifted child to, well, soldier,
Yeah.
to say the least.
It's a journey that goes way beyond the typical hero's tale, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, we're confronted with Colonel Graff and his methods right off the bat, and they are a bit morally gray.
Oh, absolutely. The way he isolates Ender, the constant comparisons to Alexander the Great Napoleon,
Yeah.
all designed to cultivate his genius, but at what cost? Are we stripping away his childhood to create this weapon?
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Ender's Game so compelling.
Right.
It forces us to ask how far is too far.
Right.
Can we justify sacrificing a child's innocence for the greater good?
And especially when you consider Ender's family, you got Peter, who's this bully of an older brother, and then Valentine, this loving sister.
Right.
It's almost like these two extremes, and Ender's caught in the middle trying to find his own path.
Yeah, it's almost like Card is suggesting that Ender's capacity for empathy.
His understanding of good and evil is what makes him such a brilliant strategist. He can anticipate his enemy's moves because he's seen those same impulses, within his own family.
Right. And that brings us to Battle School, where his true potential starts to emerge.
Right.
But even there, we're seeing those seeds of manipulation.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, take the giant strength game, for example.
Yeah.
It's not just a test of skill.
Right.
It's a lesson in breaking the rules and finding unconventional solutions.
Right.
And the fact that Ender feels guilty afterward, even though he won, I think tells us a lot about his character.
Wow.
It foreshadows these moral dilemmas that he's going to face later on.
Yeah, it's like he understands even in this game there are consequences.
Yes.
And that weighs heavily on him, even at such a young age.
Exactly. He's not just a brilliant tactician. He's a deeply sensitive individual.
Right.
And that sensitivity is both his strength and his vulnerability. And it's interesting how those themes of isolation and manipulation continue to play out even as he's forming alliances. We see it in his relationship with Ally, who offers this genuine friendship and support.
Right.
And then with Bean, who becomes this protege.
Right.
But it's more complex than that.
Much more complex. That's a great observation. I think Allay represents a connection to Ender's humanity.
Okay.
A reminder of the world outside the pressures of Battle School.
Yeah.
But Bean Ender's mentorship of Bean almost mirrors the manipulative tactics that are used by the adults.
Wow.
It's a subtle but disturbing parallel.
So it's like he's internalized these tactics without realizing it.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, is manipulation just an inevitable part of leadership?
Right. Especially in times of war.
Yeah.
And that's the question Card keeps throwing at us.
Yeah.
When survival is at stake, do the ends justify the means? Can we forgive the manipulations, the sacrifices, if they ultimately lead to victory?
Especially when you consider that the adults are intentionally putting him through these trials, right? They're pushing him to the brink because they believe that only through hardship can true genius be forged.
Right.
I mean, it's brutal, but it's effective.
It is, and it speaks to this idea that in war, even children can become instruments of power.
Uh-huh.
Their innocence is seen as an asset,
Right.
something to be molded and shaped for a very specific purpose.
That's a chilling thought, but it makes you think about the ways in which power structures operate,
Yeah.
not just in fiction, but in the real world.
Absolutely.
How easily are those lines blurred, when the stakes are high enough?
For sure.
And Ender, despite his youth, he's starting to see those lines blur. He's mastering the game, but at what cost? We're seeing glimpses of the loneliness, the nightmares.
Right.
Like he's winning every battle, but losing himself in the process.
And it's only going to get worse.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more on Ender's Game.
Sounds good. And those costs, they become even more apparent when we look at the emotional impact of Ender's journey.
Right.
You remember that scene where he receives the letter from Valentine?
Oh, man, that one hit me hard. It's supposed to be a source of comfort, right? But it just really underscores the level of control that these adults have over his life.
Yeah.
Even his connection with his sister has been weaponized.
Exactly. They've infiltrated every aspect of his world,
Right.
leaving him with virtually no escape.
Yeah, it's no wonder that he starts to exhibit those signs of rebellion, even if they're subtle.
Right.
Like his fascination with the fantasy game.
Yeah.
It's interesting how even his play takes on this darker, more violent tone.
It's like that game becomes a mirror reflecting his inner turmoil, you know?
Right.
Remember that scene with the snake and his own reflection?
Oh, yeah.
Chilling stuff.
It's like he's confronting the monster they're trying to mold him into.
Right.
And yet, despite all of this, he still displays those flashes of empathy.
He does, that yearning for connection.
Absolutely. And that's what sets him apart from someone like Peter.
Right.
You know, think about his decision to form his own practice group, defying the established hierarchy,
Right.
reaching out to those younger students.
It's such a small act, but it speaks volumes about his character.
It does.
It shows that he's not just driven by ambition or power.
Right.
There's this core of compassion in him that refuses to be extinguished.
Absolutely.
And that compassion, it shines through even when he's placed in command of Dragon Army.
Yeah, the underdog of battle school.
Right. You'd think he would just adopt the same cutthroat tactics that were used on him,
Right.
but he doesn't.
Well, he pushes them hard.
He does?
You know, he demands excellence and strategic thinking.
Right.
But there's also this sense that he genuinely cares about his soldiers.
Yeah.
You know, he sees their potential even when they doubt themselves.
Like that scene with Bean.
When he sets him up for success despite his size.
Exactly. That's what makes Ender such a fascinating study in leadership.
Yeah.
He understands the need for discipline,
Right.
for unwavering obedience in the heat of battle,
Uh-huh.
but he never loses sight of the human cost.
He's constantly wrestling with that conflict,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
The pull between the ruthless strategist and the empathetic individual.
Right.
It's no wonder he starts to crack under the pressure.
And then comes that bombshell revelation from Dink Meeker.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this whole system is designed to pit these children against each other,
Wow.
to break them down and rebuild them as perfect soldiers.
It makes you question everything.
It does.
It's like we as readers are also being manipulated,
Right.
led to believe that this is about nurturing future leaders, when in reality it's a breeding ground for weapons.
It is. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah, it is. And the adults are watching, analyzing, pulling the strings.
Right.
These kids are just pawns in their grand experiment. And as Ender starts to see through the facade, his disillusionment grows. He's winning, but the victories feel hollow.
They do. He's lost his innocence,
Right.
his belief in the rightness of his cause.
Yeah.
And it's in this state of emotional turmoil that he's transferred to command school,
Right.
isolated, further stripped of his support system.
And that's where he encounters Mazer Rackham, right?
Right, the hero of the previous war.
But even Mazer's mentorship feels manipulative.
It does.
In a way.
It does. It's like he's grilling Ender for this war that will demand a level of ruthlessness that could destroy him.
Right. He's preparing him for something unlike anything humanity has ever faced.
Yeah, a war that will push him to the very limits of his moral compass.
Right. And we see Ender struggling with that,
Yeah.
trying to reconcile the strategist he's become with the empathetic boy he once was.
Right. And the simulations keep getting more intense,
Yeah.
pushing him to make decisions that chip away at his soul.
It's like every victory comes at the cost of a piece of himself.
Exactly.
Right.
And as he gets closer to that final battle,
Right.
the line between simulation and reality starts to blur.
Yeah.
He's so immersed in the game, in the fight for survival, that he loses sight of the bigger picture.
And then comes that final confrontation.
Yeah.
The one where the fate of humanity hangs in balance.
Right. But there's a twist.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate manipulation.
Right.
The simulation is so real, so visceral, that Ender believes he's truly fighting for his life, for the survival of his species.
He's pushing his squadron leaders to the limit,
He is.
demanding these feats of strategy and coordination that seem impossible.
It's incredible.
He's using everything he's learned, every tactic, every ounce of his genius to outmaneuver the buggers.
Right, and in a moment of desperation,
Yeah.
he resorts to a move that's strictly forbidden.
Oh, wow.
A direct attack on the enemy's homeworld.
It's a gamble.
It is.
A desperate act born out of the need to protect those he loves.
But it also highlights the brilliance of his strategic mind. You know, he's willing to break the rules, to defy expectations, to do whatever it takes to win.
And he does win.
He does.
He annihilates the bugger fleet,
Right.
achieving a victory that should be celebrated, but instead there's this crushing sense of despair.
Yeah, because as the dust settles, the cheers fade, the truth is revealed.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't a simulation.
It was real.
It was real. Ender has unknowingly committed genocide.
It's a gut-wrenching realization. He's 11 years old, and he's carrying the weight of countless lives on his shoulders.
And this is where Card's storytelling truly shines.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't
Yeah.
shy away from the psychological trauma, the moral complexities of war.
Right.
He shows us the brokenness, the despair that lingers long after the battles are won.
Ender's hailed as a hero,
Right.
but he sees himself as a monster.
Yeah, haunted by nightmares, consumed by guilt.
Right. It's a stark reminder that even the most brilliant minds can be shattered by the horrors of war.
They can. He's given a chance to heal,
Mm.
to find some semblance of peace on this distant planet that echoes the landscapes of his childhood.
But even there, those ghosts of his past linger.
They do. It's like the war may be over,
Yeah.
but the battle within Ender continues to rage.
He's searching for redemption,
Right.
a way to atone for the unimaginable destruction he's unleashed.
And that search leads him to the Bugger Queen's cocoon,
Okay.
this remnant of the civilization that he destroyed.
Wow.
And it's in that moment of confrontation with his past that he discovers a new purpose, a new mission.
To understand the buggers.
Yes, to tell their story, to ensure that their sacrifice is not forgotten.
It's a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness.
It is a chance for Ender to find some measure of peace.
Ender's Game is a story that stays with you,
It does.
challenges you to think about the nature of power,
Right.
the manipulation of innocence, and the devastating consequences of war.
Absolutely. But it also offers a glimmer of hope,
Right.
a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, there's always the possibility of redemption.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what can we take away from Ender's journey? What echoes of this story do you see in your own life and the world around you? What are the lines we're willing to cross, the sacrifices we're willing to make in the name of what we believe in? And how do we navigate the complex moral landscape of a world where those lines are often blurred? These are the questions Ender's Game leaves us grappling with, and I think they're worth pondering long after the final page is turned.